Thank you for joining us. You probably noticed that we haven't been recording for the last little while. And well, the good news is we now have a new studio here at our Westlake Village office here in Southern California. We call it Studio One, and we're very excited that we'll be having a new location that we hope to be at for the foreseeable future. I thank you for your patience in waiting for us to get ourselves back online, but we look forward to bringing you a lot of really interesting guests over the next few months, and I hope you'll continue watching us. Thank you. Hello, and welcome to the Three Questions podcast, where we dive deep into the world of wealth management and connect you with industry experts. I'm your host, Wayne Baxter, Senior Executive Manager at One Capital Management. Now, if you or someone close to you is a highly compensated C-suite executive, you're not going to want to miss today's episode. We are going to address the three questions highly compensated C-suite executives should ask before making a change. Thank you for taking time to check us out. And if you enjoy this episode of the Three Questions podcast, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our podcast and YouTube channels. On this episode of the Three Questions podcast, I would like to invite you to join us as we discuss the topic of what's next. Three questions highly compensated C-suite executives should ask before making a change. As you'll see, knowing the right questions to ask can make all the difference. To discuss this and more is my very special guest, Ricci Victorio. She is the President and Master Certified Coach of Fairview, California-based Victorio Consulting. Ricci provides coaching, communication, leadership, and teamwork training programs to individuals and organizations across the U.S. and Canada. Ricci, thank you. Thank you so much for taking time to join us today. We're so happy to have you.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking me to join you.
You know, I will say this for myself. You know, one of the areas in the world of wealth management I'm kind of passionate about is retirement planning. And, you know, in the years I've been working in this business, one of the biggest challenges that my clients have had, and we've talked about, is dealing with that transition from actively working, you know, going, 24/7, and then waking up one morning and realizing what's next, right? And I've always believed that that's a bit of a crisis for a lot of people, that thinking about what happens after, this full-time gig I've been doing for however many years. And for some people, it will be straight into, proverbial financial independence. And for other people, they may not want to do that, right? They may want something else. So I'm really, really, really happy that you could make time to join us today. And before we get to our three questions, I would really like for you to share with our audience, first of all, what is a Master Certified Coach? What do you do? And how did you end up getting into that line of work in the first place?
Well, thank you. I don't know that I had that in my life vision plan, but it's sort of a journey that we find ourselves on. Different from an advisor or a consultant, Master Certified Coach is a catalyst who will evoke transformation in a collaborative and curious way. But we use a laser-focused approach that moves our clients forward in a profound way. So the MCC credential represents the highest level of achievement within the International Coaching Federation, which is the largest accrediting body in the world, and requires thousands of hours of coaching, mentoring, being mentored, and training hours. And here's an interesting fact about MCCs. As of August 2024, out of 58,000 coaches that are ICF certified, that are in 163 countries around the world, only 4% of all professional coaches are MCCs. Now, if you put that into numbers, that's less than 2,400, less than.
I was trying to do the math as you were sharing that.
And that means only 777 as of August are MCCs in the United States. So I just kind of wanted to create a meta and a micro view. It's quite a journey. Not every coach gets certified. Every person who calls them a coach gets certified. But once they go into that journey, very few, 4%, are master certified coaches. It's just a very difficult journey.
And we're blessed to have you joining us today. So that's awesome. So I got to ask you, how did you end up in this role?
Well, I think the first part of my career, I was an improvisational comedian and actor. I lived in LA, performed in New York, Florida, I taught in schools and educational environments. And as an improvisational performer and then as an improvisational acting coach, I started to get really curious where my actors were getting stuck, not only in expressing themselves when they were performing, but getting stuck in their careers. So I spent some time developing what I called a breakthrough weekend that was designed to identify where people get stuck and break through it and push through. It created incredible results. And as
Hmm.
word started getting out, I started having business people trickle in. And I started coaching business teams and business leaders. Now, this opened up my eyes because I started to see the impact of coaching is so much greater than when you're working with just one individual. Now you're working with a team, you're
Hmm.
working with an organization, and sometimes a community. And that really hit my heart as feeling like that was the higher calling. So I spent a great deal of time listening, being mentored, training, reading everything I could, and working with the top professionals in the United States to learn about the language of business. And after experiencing high levels of success for 20 years, coaching business leaders and teams and executives, I started to wonder what's next in my journey. So I learned about the MCC approach, and it's so different from advising business owners or coaching actors. Um, However, there's one unifying aspect in all levels of coaching is that we're human beings. So I am a human expert, business agnostic. And in achieving the MCC, it took me 12 years, even with all the years of coaching and professional work that I'd done. And it completely redesigned the way I work with clients. And it doesn't matter what environment, an executive, a business owner, someone who is starting their business, it doesn't matter. They're human beings and we still have to get alignment. And I felt that this would be a capstone in my personal professional journey towards mastery as a coach.
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind when in sharing that is that I think the one thing you and I have in common, I believe, is that our roles come with a fairly high level of, I guess, first of all, compassion.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be compassionate in one way, then also we have to be dispassionate, right? We have to be empathetic, right? But we also have to be forthright, right? We have to be able to not, if we're going to help, lead our clients, guide our clients towards their stated objectives, we have to be honest with them. And sometimes we have to share information with them they may not be ready for or not expecting. So very impressed with your path. And, we both know, and you just talked about it, 58,000 coaches. There are a plethora of coaches in consulting offering their expertise and services. And I'll say, other than specialize in providing advice for highly compensated C-suite executives and business owners and individuals, what do you believe sets yourself apart? Ricci, what is we'll call it
Mm.
superpower for lack of a better word?
Da, 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 da. Well,
Yeah, exactly.
my my colleagues have joked that I wear a cape, and there are times where they say, "Send Ricci out first," because he can get everybody ready to hear the rest of us. Um, I think coaching requires a creative, intuitive, and empathic
Hmm.
human person.
Hmm.
I definitely have those qualities, and that creates a shorthand that helps my clients and I dig quickly. We can get to the truth quickly. There's compassion that comes with it, though, in finding the truth and how do we deliver that profound information in a compassionate way that our clients can receive it. But I think what sets me apart is wrapped around this uh, way of being is a powerful, undaunting confidence that we will achieve our desired outcomes. I have a solid foundation, two beliefs that I live my life by. There's no such thing as failure, and there's no such thing as coincidences. You know that because when we reached out, it was like, boom, we knew this was not a coincidence that we were meeting.
I'm
You cannot,
100%.
right? Right. And you cannot fail if you learn from every experience.
There's an
And
incredible amount of serendipity in how we got connected, and just to, yeah, I've enjoyed all of our conversations 100%.
thank you. Thank you. Well, you know, the universe is constantly throwing all kinds of opportunities at us. And if we don't take the time to know what we're looking for and how to recognize the gems that are coming our way, we will sometimes talk ourselves out of them, or we won't even see them at all. There's a blindness that if we don't have any clarity about what's important to us and what we're looking for. So I hold this space fiercely for my clients, and many times that paradigm blindness, that paradigm effect, that we don't see what we're not looking for, right? So I help my clients get really clear what's important to them. I focus on the human and not the problem. We're not there, I'm not there to solve the problems. I'm there to help the human being define a clear picture of who they want to be, what they want to feel or experience or do in their lives. And then once we have that clarity, we can get creative into how we make that happen. And that's the easy part. Truly, the how is the easy part. Once you get clarity on taking the time. It takes a little bit of time for clients to settle down and expand their thinking about who they have been, who they are now, and who do they want to be in the world going forward. And that's where the transformation takes place.
You know, I said earlier that the two things we have in common is our a level of compassion and empathy, and being dispassionate. And I would add to that, and just reminding myself listening to you again, is that both you and I have another, I think, gift, is that we're both implementers. When we see an opportunity, you talked about it earlier, seeing the opportunity but doing nothing with it, right? And
Right.
you and I both, I can look back in my entire career and see it over and over and over again as I've had ideas put forth and say, well, that's a good idea, and basically putting it away somewhere. I've chronically implemented so many ideas that have been shared with me that maybe most people would never have taken seriously. And I've been rewarded greatly for it. So I appreciate that. I think what we've done so far is I think we probably grabbed our audience attention. So why don't we get right to our three questions?
Okay.
Okay, these are the three questions highly compensated C-suite executives should ask before making a change. So the first question is it the job that needs changing, or is it me? Ricci, over to you.
And that is a profound question, really. Yeah, wherever you go, there you are, right?
Yes.
So I think that the best way to address this is I decided to tell client stories so that you can
Yes.
get a feeling about what does that
100%.
mean? Is it the job or that needs changing, or is it me? And I had a high level executive. I'm going to call this story "Creating Perspective to Create Change." And I had an executive who had been 25 years with this very big company that we would all recognize. And she's senior level, 25 years, executive project manager. And when she was referred to me, she had 5 years left to go before she hit her 30. But she was at the point where she'd hit the wall. And she said, I cannot do this anymore. I am dying inside. I am so bored. I don't know what to do with myself, and I'm tired of fighting the same battles over and over again. I can't do it. I need you to help me get out. Well, we spent some time talking about that and exploring it. And as we looked at other things that she could be doing, I asked her a question and I said, well, you know, 5 years isn't very long. What if we could flip your perspective? What if we could change the way you're being at work, which might influence the way others are being with you? What if we could flip this to make these the most exciting years of your career at this company? And she was like, I don't know what to do with that. And we had to explore that. And that's where we focused our coaching. And I've been working with her now for 4 years, and she's in her last year. We have flipped the way she communicates with her supervisors and put her in control of how she wanted them to receive information about her. She's become known as a proactive problem solver. We have also flipped the way that she was getting what her vision was about what she was doing. And she's now in a creative role, which she wasn't before. She was in a project manager job, and now she's working with creatives and innovating solutions. She's now doing public speaking for the company and doing TED Talks. And we are on the last lap. And this has been, she's now a mentor for others. It's just flipped it around. So when we talk about, is it the job that needs changing or me? Sometimes it is the job. But when I looked at, after we explored all that she had created, it seemed like we had a whole lot more to play with if she could turn it around. And she's now in her last lap. She's going to hit her 30, and she's actually had a lot of fun.
I guess the first question I was going to, the follow up I'm curious about this great story is I was wondering if she was having so much fun that she was actually willing to stay on for a bit longer.
Well, there is some chat about that, although we've
Not
also
surprised.
explored some of her other creative. I had her take a creative sabbatical because she had it a lot. She had that time, and she took 3 months off to do just creative things because she is a creative person. And it was a time of discovery for her. And so we're really setting up, she may be doing some mentoring, but she definitely has some things that she's excited about doing when she retires.
You know, you and I first talked about the idea of having you on the podcast, I told you that our conversation would probably provoke and bring up other things that we would talk about, and you just successfully managed to do that, Ricci. One of the things I try to do, and I'm not 100% perfect at doing, is I try to take my own little mini sabbaticals, right, throughout the year. And, because the belief I have is that you can't keep an axe sharp all the time if you're always using it, right? So
Right.
if I take a bit of a break, not extended, but even a week away, just to get a mental break where I'm not, on my PC, not on my computer, not on my laptop, not answering emails, take a mental break. Do you see the virtue in that? Is that something you like? You would sign off on? Do you think that's an effective thing to do?
I actually would challenge that a little bit because 1 week isn't long enough for you to interrupt your habits.
Okay.
We take vacations, but generally I find the first week of a vacation, you are still unwinding all that you brought with you. The second week, when people are on vacation, they tend to try to do everything they've been wanting to do and like cram it all in there because I'm on vacation or I'm on sabbatical. But what happens, there's some kind of alchemy that happens in the third week. And in the third week, you've settled down, you've unwound, you're unplugged, you've done all the things you should do while you're on vacation, and you settle into just being wherever you are. So I really recommend the first time I took a 3 week vacation was profound for me. The time I took 4 weeks off was mind blowing. In fact, I was thinking, do I really want to go back? you know? So I think whatever time you need to, like for my client, she took a 3 month sabbatical. And she had plans for some of it, but we on purpose had some open space that was unplanned for discovery and improvisation. I've got a number of clients doing that, whether they can do it for a week or she was able to do it for 3 months. She came back really super refreshed and fully
I would imagine
present,
so.
ready to be there. And the energy she's bringing into this last year is remarkable. So I would say if you can get a week and really unplug and unplan, my favorite vacation is no plans. Go somewhere. I need to
100%.
go somewhere, but I don't like to plan it. And that way I can be present for what's going to show up.
Well, thank you for sharing, Ricci. Ricci Victorio is our guest, and we're going to continue with our 3 questions for highly compensated C-suite executives who are trying to figure out what's next. So, question number 2, Ricci. What would I do if I knew I wouldn't fail? I love
Go
that
for
question,
it.
by the way. I love that. I hope that wasn't copyrighted because I think I'm gonna start implementing that into my discussions with my clients. I think that is an excellent question. There you
I have
go.
it on my desk.
There you
What would
go. I
you
love
do?
it. Look at you.
It's
Perfect.
in heavy metal. So my story is called Go For It. And that's really would be my response. I do ask my questions. I do ask this question of every single client, not always right at the beginning, but at some point, is to imagine that you don't have to worry about all of your considerations. I have to take care of my family. I've got the house. It's usually money, but it's in, the Maslow's hierarchy of security. All that comes in the way when you're thinking about making a change in your life. So I had a client who came to me not at a retirement age. She was actually, and I'm going to tell this story because it's just so great. She was at a pivotal place in her professional journey as an attorney. And she was working for a professional firm and really feeling battered by the schedule, the 80-hour weeks, the demands. She had no personal life, nobody in her life. She was getting close to reaching 40 and worrying about, I want to have a family. And, all of that pressure on her was just making it intolerable for her to feel like she had a life in her career. And I tell the story because we started thinking about, I knew she had invested so much of herself into her career. What would you do if you could not fail? And she said, I've always dreamed of working for the SEC. Who dreams of that? I don't. So I said, oh, well, let's do that. And she said, no, it's impossible. It's impossible to get. And I'll never, all that stuff came up. Well, I want to fast forward because I said, well, let's find out. And of course, once it came out into the universe, it threw it at us that they were open for, they were accepting applications. And she said, well, I won't get it. I said, apply. She put it off till almost the day they were closing it. And I called her up and I said, have you turned it in yet? No. Have you turned it in yet? Turn it in. And so she did it. And she got hired.
Of course.
And not only did she discover, this was the work, she has the work that was really in her heart to do as an attorney is what she's doing there. And she's being recognized for her forward thinking. But she discovered that this place has a work-life balance. They don't work weekends. Everybody has families. They support maternity leave. She discovered
It
things
was
that
everything
did not
that she was
exist.
looking for. It fell right in her lap.
Then she met somebody. Now she's married. Now she has 2 children. She is mentoring. She's well established where she's been. She's been there for 7 years. And I'm still coaching her as she navigates through her professional journey. But when I say, what would you do? What do you want? And ask for it. Ask for it. She did. And I can't tell you, she's one of dozens. And I mean, all my clients, when they ask for it, they get it. You just have to ask for it.
People are afraid to ask.
Yes.
People are afraid to, they're afraid because they know the answer before they ask, right? No, right? That's what they tell themselves. Just like when it's like, what would I do if I wouldn't fail? Well, that's not going to happen, right?
Right, right. But, sometimes I'll say, so what's the price that you're paying if you don't try? Is
Right.
that greater than the price if you try? And what if you don't get it?
You
You
know,
know,
I'll equate that back to my story about how I ended up moving from Canada down here to Southern California. The opportunity was presented to me that I could become One Capital's cross-border financial advisor, right? And I went back to my wife and I told her what had been offered, and her response to that, there was a two-part response. First part was, she said, if we don't do this, we're going to spend the rest of our life wondering, what if?
what if?
And then she said, and besides the point, somebody back in Canada will hire you if you fall flat on your face. Which I guess is
No,
kind of a backhand vote of confidence, but the point of it is, like, we figured that no, most people, I must admit, thought it was a lunacy commission should be appointed when I decided to make this major
of course,
change.
they're going to sow the seeds of doubt because they're not acting on their dreams and they secretly don't want you acting on yours.
That's anyway, I could go off on a tangent on that one. Yeah, ironically, when I come down here to LA and start meeting people here, and I was telling them what I was doing, almost unanimously, everybody I met with said, "Good for you, go for it." Everybody was so encouraging, and
Yeah.
didn't turn out exactly. Everything didn't fall into place the way I exactly thought it would be, but it's been an incredible journey, and I regret none of it. Okay, Ricky, let's go on to our third question. Again, these are for questions highly compensated C-suite executives would ask before they make a change.
Mhm.
Question number 3. What would it look like if I just push the, in quotes, easy button?
Mhm.
Okay, so I have to ask the question, of course, what is the easy button? But take it away.
All right. We humans like to make things hard. We like to complicate them. There's a very simple secret to pushing the easy button, and that's getting very, very clear on what you want, and then believing you deserve it and you can have it. So, with this clarity, the passion that arrives, that gets you speaking your truth, meeting people who say, I didn't know that about you. Let me introduce you to X. Then coincidence happens. And I don't believe in coincidences. But it cannot happen if you don't open your mouth, if you don't claim it. So the easy button is to say what you want. Bingo. Say what you want and then take the steps towards achieving it. It seems very simple, but you would be astounded at how many people think it has to be so hard. I taught I taught comedy for a very long time. And one fundamental belief I have about comedy is it's really difficult to create out of angst, out of depression or unhappiness, out of fear. Where do we create from? We create out of joy. We create out of resonance. And for me, bringing actors or creatives out of that depth and into who they are and claiming it, that's where success happens. That's where you can reach that, that flow, that creative flow that's just feels like it's out of reach. It's just pouring down upon us. It's just most of us won't step outside to feel it. So getting them clear on what they want and then claiming it, that's the easy button, because then we have a laser focus. We don't get distracted. And that simplifies the journey because you just do it basically.
I guess couple things come to mind. First things first is you talked about just saying it, right? You're putting it out there, whatever it is that you're looking for. In addition to that, and I think this complements what you suggest. I'm a big believer in writing things down,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because once it's down on paper, it becomes real. I think a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people have a lot of ideas, up here. They're, sloshing around. But I find that when I put it down on paper, I somehow validate it. That's been my experience anyway. Because
Yeah.
I'm big, as my clients all know, I'm a big into goal setting, right?
Well, but you're speaking it, and it reminds
Right.
me of a quick client story exactly about this, where I had an executive who was being downsized, and of another very large company. He had a good package. He wasn't too worried financially, but he said, I'm only, 52. I'm not ready to stop and I don't know what to do. And so we went round and round. We looked at ideas and different things. And he kept circling back to there were elements of what he was doing at this company that he really loved. But he had a different way of envisioning it. And he said, it'll never happen. I've never heard of anybody doing this role. He, uh, in this way. And it was really a big idea. And I said, wow, that sounds, I mean, if you could find something like that, how would you feel? And he was just totally excited. I mean, I would feel like I could bring so much to it and I would have so much energy about it. And I said, well, okay, so let's write out a resume that would attract that. And let's put it to paper, like you said, Wayne. And um, he said, oh, but it's never going to happen. Well, I'm going to tell you that that magical job that didn't exist, that seemed impossible because he invented it, showed up in less than 3 months.
Hmm.
Less than 3 months. And it was happened right when he said, well, I think I'm ready to find a role now. I'm ready to find a job. And see, he was on break. So he wasn't ready to find a job this whole time we were coaching. He was on vacation. And as soon as he said he was ready, this job popped up. Exactly, exactly the way he dreamed it. So that's what I'm saying is the easy button. You have to be ready. You can talk about it. Like you said, you could dream about it. But until you're committed to it and you're ready and you want it and you can taste it, the universe is just going to say, well, it's not time yet. You're not ready. You don't want it. Oh, you
Okay.
want it? Here.
I told you I had a couple. I have a follow up, and I'm almost afraid to ask now. What is the alternative to the easy button? I can't think of a good answer. I don't.
Well, I think some people feel all things good must be complicated and hard. So if you believe that, you make it so. So a lot of people think I have to have a hard and troubled road in order to be worthy of this blessed outcome. And I think that we fulfill our own prophecies. So if you need it to be hard in order to get it, we could make it hard, I
In other words,
guess.
I think we heard about this reason. We could do it the easy way, or we can do it the hard way, is what you're saying.
Yeah, we'll still get
Oh,
there. It's
I,
just how,
let
what's
me
your vision?
think. Well, okay, you know what? We've covered a lot. Ricci, you've been an awesome guest. No, I do have another question though. So this isn't
Oh,
a part of
okay.
the three questions. This is kind of like in conclusion, uh, given how how very closely you work with your clients, do you find it important to also collaborate with their other advisors? And I'll give you an example. Their attorneys, their accountants, their insurance brokers, financial advisors, et
Mhm.
cetera. We could go on and on, right? Do you find that, do you leave that to them and then you're just working with the client, or are you actually collaborating with sort of the quote unquote team, if you will?
Um, it's really entirely up to the client. if I'm brought in by their financial advisor, it's up to the client and how they want to collaborate. The more complicated a situation is, like when I'm working with a family and their business, I definitely have to collaborate, and that must happen. With a personal executive, sometimes once we hit on where we want to go, bringing in the spouse can be important if it's going to be a big change in their lives, or sometimes bringing in the financial advisor or an attorney if there are legal things that need to be done. I think it depends on the situation. Client confidentiality, as you know, is paramount. So to be aware of what's going on, though, is important, because we kind of need to know, well, what's the sandbox we're playing in? We could dream big, but if you have a smaller retirement package, we need to plan within what is possible. So there are times, yes, when we do more collaborative planning. Usually it's when we get into the how part of how are we going to get there, and let's check with your financial advisor and see, is this possible, or how can we make it, for me, how can we make this possible?
What's the math?
What's the math? And then we'll work from there. We'll work
right,
back.
exactly.
So it really depends on the situation. But there are many times when I am interacting with one of their other advisors. Yeah.
Well, you know what? I am pretty sure, Ricci, that our conversation today has prompted some additional questions from folks who have been watching or listening. And for those who are interested in contacting you directly, what is the best way for them? How can they reach you? What would be the best way for them to reach you? How can they contact?
If we press the easy button, I haven't basically on my website, if you go to victorioconsulting.com, I have in multiple places, schedule a 30-minute consultation with Ricci. It literally is the easy button. You get my calendar, we'll do a Zoom call or a phone call, and usually those 30 minutes might go 45, but it gets us established if we want to schedule another meeting. So I think that is probably the most direct and easy way to reach me.
Perfect. Ricci, what can I say? Thank you so much for joining us today. Great guest. Ricci Victorio is President and Master Certified Coach with Fairfield, California-based Victoria Consulting. She was a great guest. Ricci, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Wayne.
I look forward to bringing you the 3 Questions podcast, and I hope you find them educational and informative. Please consider liking this video and subscribing to our podcast and YouTube channels. And to receive a notification of when our latest episodes have been posted, please click on the notifications bell. Lastly, to schedule an online Zoom consultation with me to discuss your wealth management needs, please click on the link below in the description box, www.onecapital.com/meet with Wayne. Thank you, and we'll see you soon.